Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS and betting preview for this week's Open Championship. We got ourselves Royal Portrush, the fourth major of the season, and getting to get you guys ready for all of your exposure in this video with a complete breakdown of the event. That'll include, first off, a look at the golf course and the kind of key stats and comps that I'm using to get to my top pieces of exposure. And then afterwards, going to cycle into that side of things and go through my top DFS plays, my cores and values that I'm getting well over the field on in Draftkings. And then afterwards, also some placement bets and some outrights I'm considering out there from the betting angle too. So by the end, you'll have all the info you need to get your research process started and a few ideas on potential plays that you might want to research yourself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in with a look at the course and exactly what I'm looking for in terms of key stats. The Open Championship, in my opinion, is the most balanced of the four majors. Any kind of stat profile can win an Open Championship, and you've seen that with some of your past champions, some bombers, some short game specialists, some really good putters that have gotten the job done as well, and Royal Portrush would be another example of that. I think if you have any massive deficiency in the 4 shots gained categories, it's going to be exposed around this kind of track. And while there are a few specific niche stats that can help you around here, you also just need to be a high pedigree player to find success. So with the approach play, the main thing to hone in on there might be 175 plus. All 4 par 3s are over 175, and also the vast majority of the other holes, your par 4s and par 5s especially, are going to have approach shots over that kind of mark. So I've got some extra emphasis with 175 to 250, and then also a lot of form incorporated over the last 12 or 24 rounds. Off the tee is more distance than accuracy heavy. The rough is only listed at 2 inches for this week, and while there are some spots of bother, including out of bounds on a few holes, also some pot bunkers that could lead to a whole stroke penalty at times, the driving distance for the vast majority of the golf course is going to be what you want to lean into. And when we take a look at the 2019 leaderboard, you have guys like Tony Finau towards the top, other bombers in that top 5, top 10. That's why you saw some correlation towards that the last time we played here. Around the green, important at an Open Championship, especially if the winds kick up, which it's a little early in the week to be looking at weather, but if we get some nasty weather, it would make around the green even more so important in the model. Putting, important as well. Number 4, you can't completely overlook that. Again, a very balanced golf course. You want all 4 key stats in your model for this week, but if you want to look at anything in particular on top of just form, you can look at fescue putting, as that's the surface. Bogey avoidance is important at an Open Championship, and then for comp course history, we don't have specific tracks that we're using, but I'm looking at shots gained on links. So that would be your Renaissance Club, also all of your Open Championship venues, where I'm pulling these shots gained metrics. And if you saw my course breakdown, I will have a link to that in the description as well. I went over exactly why that's the most advantageous thing, but the Spark Notes version is we can get stats for everyone that's in this field. Live guys can get stuff from the Open Championship, PGA Tour guys can get it from all over the place, and same thing from the DP World Tour. So rather than using, let's say, PGA Tour courses, DP World Tour courses for our comps, by using this kind of links, the Renaissance and the Open Championship, it gives us a much more balanced profile. And this gives us, we are looking for guys that are coming in with form, a good course history at link setups, and then maybe long iron play and fescue putting. That would be the main sort of things that you're looking for in your plays, and you'll see that reflected with the core plays and values, which, speaking of, let's not waste any more time at all and start talking through my top plays for this week. First up, we've got ourselves Tommy Fleetwood at $9,500, and I would never bet him to win, especially at a major championship, but his top 5 pedigree has been there over the years. So the top 5 at plus 75 at a course where he finished in runner-up the last time out, and also in arguably some of the best form of his career. We know about the near win at the RBC Canadian. He's also had some other top 25s over his last 4 to 5 starts, and overall gaining in the most important category. So if we go to the last 12 measured rounds, you can see he's gaining over a stroke per round with the iron play, which is by far the most important stat category, but solid in the other 4 categories too. And really the only downside to him, at least with my modeling this week, would be the putting on fescue, which over the last few seasons has not been advantageous. But if we zoom out a little bit more earlier in his career, a lot of his best putting performances at the Open Championship came on fescue and came where he was gaining 2 to 3 strokes over the entire event. So he has shown upside to do so. He did it at the 2019 version of this event. So that top 5 odds at 575, I thought was fair for that sort of a sprinkle. And from the DFS perspective, we don't need him to win at $9,500. In fact, I'm not going to have any outright bets that we're mixing in quite yet. The odds on hard rock bet, you guys may have seen my tweet on that, are just absolutely terrible at this stage of the week. By far the worst odds on every single player on the board. So I'm just going to stay away until they correct that. But somebody like a Rory McIlroy, for example, that has the course history here, shot a 61 as a junior, a player that obviously blew up on his first hole last time around, which completely changed the narrative on it. But I could see Rory being a sprinkle that I take for an outright, maybe a John Rahm towards the top that actually wins this thing and is maybe where I'm starting off some DFS lineups. Players like Tommy Fleetwood, a top 5 as your second man in, could perfectly pay off in that sort of format. And I think after the slightly disappointing week at the Scottish Open, there's a chance that he gets a little bit overlooked here. And I'll stress a little bit because I still think he's going to be at least the average ownership, maybe even slightly above the average ownership. But if Fleetwood had top 10 last week at the Scottish and it had that course history, the form near that near win, all of that kind of stuff, you'd be talking about a 30% on Tommy Fleetwood. So, if he's about average, maybe slightly above average ownership, I think that's pretty reasonable given the kind of form that he has heading in here. And the event history, just to go back to 2019, he did finish in second, as I mentioned before. But even at other, link style golf courses, Open Championship venues, he had a 4th place 3 years ago, also a T10 finish 2 years ago, only 1 missed cut over the last 5 years, and that was last time out. So maybe there's some recency bias against a Fleetwood because of that, but historically has played extremely well at these sort of venues, and it makes sense from the stat perspective. He was a DP World Tour stud before he really came over to the PGA Tour for his full-time career, and over on that side of the pond, he was a prolific winner on the DP World Tour. So I don't think it's out of reason that he could win an event like this. I'm just not going to do so until he actually punches that first W. But the top 5 odds at plus 575 is a perfectly reasonable bet for somebody like a Fleetwood. So I like the course history, I like the form heading in, really just a lot of positives for the Tommy lad, other than the fact that he didn't win his last time out. Next up, we have Robert McIntyre, who I would also consider for an outright bet. He's 35-1 on FanDuel. If I could get that on Hard Rock Bet, I would enter it myself, but I was able to get a top 5 at plus 800 right now. So that sort of exposure I felt pretty happy with. And he's coming off a disappointing week. He was at, the returning champion at the Scottish Open, ended up just hardly making the cut and then not doing anything with it over the last few rounds. But McIntyre, this is very sneaky. Not a lot of people probably know this about him. He had a top 6 finish at this event in 2019. If you ask him about it, he says that this golf course is by far his favorite course in the world. He loves links golf. He loves that style of golf at Royal Portrush, even more so than other Open Championship venues. In the form, if we go to the last 24 rounds, he's been playing amazing golf. I mean, he nearly won the last US Open. That was a golf course that I didn't really think fit his game nearly as well as what we have this week. And the off the tee play has been a little sketchy, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But the approach play has been there. He's been solid around the green, making a whole bunch of putts too. And on this surface, it's not like he's earth-shatteringly good, but he gains about 0.6 strokes per round on the fescue surface, which is 0.1 strokes better per round than that 24-round baseline. And the thing here with McIntyre and this off the tee play is that it's been a little bit sketchy, but it's not because he's not long off the tee, right? He's got all the driving distance that we want. And as I previously mentioned, this is more of a distance course than an accuracy course because the rough is only 2 inches long. And the issue, and where you can get into issues around here, is when you're hitting it OB and when you're hitting it like 40 yards offline. There's some gorse bushes when you really get in between the holes. But if you're just hardly missing around this golf course, slightly missing fairways, that's not a big deal. And Robert McIntyre, that's been the reason why he's been about a neutral player off the tee. So I don't think that this golf course is going to punish him nearly as much as some of these other golf courses have been, because if he's only missing fairways by 5 to 10 yards, then he's going to be not the same exact lie as what he'd have in the fairway, but that 2-inch rough is not that bad, especially if it's not going to be super wet. So top 5 odds I thought were perfectly fair as well. And even if we go to the last 12 measured rounds, it does fall off slightly off the tee. He's still gaining about a half a stroke, if not over half a stroke per round in all of these fairway categories and in. So just elite tier course history, solid form. I liked his reaction to not winning at the US Open. That kind of respect that he was giving to JJ Spawn makes him really easy to root for. And you'd have to think that the next best thing, rather than taking home a US Open, might be winning something overseas like the Open Championship. And I know it's not in Scotland, it's in Northern Ireland this time around, but you also had a regular Irishman win in Northern Ireland last time around. So there's something to that. Maybe it's not the Rory McIlroy hometown story that a lot of people are hoping for, but somebody where it's kind of a close to home sort of winner. Next up, we've got Viktor Hovland as our last core play, and I took him for a top 5 at plus 700, which was slightly worse odds than McIntyre. So, interesting to see that he's only $8,300. You would think that he might be more expensive than McIntyre given that, but that's probably because of the form heading in. But Viktor Hovland has been by far the best iron player lately. He's gaining 1.95 shots gained approach per round. That is number one of everyone in the field. And you may say like, oh, it's a last 12 round sample size thing. Not really. Over the last 24 measured rounds, he's gaining 1.22 shots gained approach per round, which is just elite tier stuff. And if we go to the Open Championship history, he did not play here in 2019. He was not in the major championship type of fields at that point. He did miss the cut last time out, so maybe that gets a few people off of him, just like Tommy Fleetwood. But look at the rest of this. T13, T4, T12 finish over the last 4 seasons. Just even though he maybe doesn't come to mind when you think of links golf, because we're normally looking for really good short game players, and we're going to have some really good short game players here coming up with some of our value plays towards the bottom. But Viktor Hovland has proven that you don't have to have that sort of game to have success around here. And the reason why I think Hovland fits this golf course in particular is that these shots gained on approach are mostly coming with the long irons. I mean, just from 175 and out, he's throwing 5-foot darts all the time. And at this style of golf course in the past, his iron play has been what's leading him. So I like to see that it's been that leading his game heading into this event as well. And if he can get a hot putter going, which on this surface historically, it has been very advantageous for him. He gains about a half a stroke per round on this fescue surface, which is 0.65 strokes better per round than his baseline. There's evidence of that potentially happening, and if he gains 2 to 5 strokes to the field on the greens, that could be enough to get him to the victor circle as well. Now, the odds that I can get on a site like Hard Rock Bet are terrible. I think it was like 22.5 to 1 or something. There's no chance in hell that I'm going to bet that sort of number, but if I could get closer to 30 to 1, maybe 33 to 1, like I've seen him on a few other books, it might even be worth a little bit of a sprinkle there as well. And if I can't get those sort of numbers by the end of the week, maybe it is that Rory or even a John Rahm sprinkle that I mix in for my outright up top. But in DFS, I'll be using plenty of Viktor Hovland this week. That top 5 bet at plus 700 I thought was a more than fair enough number as well. And I think he's got a ton of upside from the DFS angle as well. He makes a lot of birdies. He's an extremely aggressive player, which makes him even more advantageous to play in that sort of format. Before we talk about our 3 value plays, a few more sprinkles with the top 10, top 20 market. Do want to remind you where you guys can find these spreadsheets for yourself, which of course is on my Patreon page. You can find a link to that in the description of the video, and on there for just $15 a month, you can download these sheets with all of my projections. And not only do you get my projections for the entire field, my entire 150 max pool, every single bet that I end up getting to, as well as all the research tools that you see throughout these videos. That includes my modeling for every single player. That includes recent form ranking, course fit rankings, putting stats on fescue, as well as recent form, event history, and shots gained metrics over the last 24 and 12 rounds. So pretty much every single data point that you need for these events, and it's what I use for my research process. I'm a pro DFS player that plays main slate every single week and a lot of the high stakes contests, and also plays Showdown for rounds 2 through 4. So on top of this main slate sheet that you see for all these given golf tournaments, the thing that really separates my Patreon page from others is that I do Showdown projections and Showdown modeling for rounds 2 through 4 as well. So make sure to check it out if you guys want access to all of those projections as I was mentioning, and to help support the channel in the process too. But our next value play is going to be Matt Fitzpatrick at $7,800. And I took him for a top 10 at plus 475, and we bet him outright last week. We had a 40 to 1 on him. He came real close to getting the job done, and I'm not going to hold that against him. He had maybe his best week of the entire year for us, so can't fault the guy for getting close and not punching that ticket. But at a major championship, it might be asking a bit much for him to win. I know he won the US Open and whatnot, but I think that was a little bit of an aberration. But a top 10, a top 5 bet on Matt Fitzpatrick is perfectly reasonable given his form. And you can see towards the right here, he's my 6th strength play in the entire field. So the total model ranking is just popping through the roof on a Matt Fitzpatrick. It's partially because of the ball striking form, which I'll show you in 1 second here, but also because he's maybe the best fescue putter that we have in the field, gaining 1.4 shots gained per round. Shane Lowry's at 1.99 shots gained per round, so is slightly better than Fitz, I guess. It makes sense that Lowry won last time around. He's such a good putter on this kind of surface, but you can see Fitz there. He's already an elite tier putter, one of the best, if not the best putter that we have in this field. That baseline is still 0.66 strokes better per round than what he's done over that last 24 rounds. And the last 24 rounds has been mighty fine impressive for Fitzy. Over that sample size, gaining 1.7 shots gained per round. That is one of, if not the best number for form in this portion of the field. And if you go to the last 12 rounds, so we zoom in a little bit more, it gets even better for Fitzpatrick. He's gaining 2.1 shots gained per round, just a little bit behind Russell Henley there. But I think what's most impressive about it is the consistency across all four categories. 0.5 strokes per round off the tee, 0.75 strokes per round on approach, over a half a stroke around the green, and sure, the putter has only, let's put that in quotes, only a quarter of a stroke per round. Well, now we have him on the greens where he gains 1.4 strokes per round on average. And last week on this exact type of grass type, he gained 1.8 shots gained putting per round. So you're talking about a player that has everything going his way ball striking, finally getting on the type of grass that he feels comfortable on. And if we take a look at the event history, he was nowhere near the player that he is today, but he did finish T20 way back at this golf course. So you can see the history has been great. He's 5 for 5 on made cuts at the Open. He's got 3 top 26 finishes as well. Maybe not up to his standards the last 2 times out, but he's been in a bit of a ball striking slump, is finally starting to come out of that, and that's why the modeling is so positive on him. So I love him at $7,800. I do think, though, in DFS that he'll be chalky, that there's a very, very high chance that he'll be one of the more popular players in this range, but as long as you're offsetting that chalk with another player in your lineup, maybe 2 players in the lineup that are sub let's say 5 to 7%, that are going to be totally fine even in the large field GPP. So, as my guy Tyler Tambolini loves to say, one of the heads of Ship It Nation, it's not who you play, it's how you play them in your lineups. And if there's a good piece like Fitzy that's grading out well for you, like if he's number 6 in your modeling and he's $7,800, you probably want to play that guy and just try and get different elsewhere. So that's exactly what I'm doing on a week like this. Next up, we've got ourselves Adam Scott at $7,300, a player that I used in DFS lineups last week. And, it wasn't flashy, but he did pretty much get there at that price tag, or at least got very close to being an optimal play. And he's a top 10 at plus 650. So the odds got a little bit worse than what they opened at last week, just because of the form that he showed at the Scottish Open. But he's my number 18 ranked play in the entire field, and he's down here at number 25 in the pricing, so a little bit of a value when you compare the modeling rank to his actual price tag. And just like Matt Fitzpatrick, he is an amazing putter on the surface. In fact, for his career, gaining just under a stroke per round on these type of greens, which is 0.92 strokes better per round than his 24 rounds baseline. And if we go to that 24 round baseline, it's not like he's playing terribly, right? A slight gainer in that category, a little bit over 1.3, a little bit over a stroke per round, I should say, with his shots gained tee to green. But last 12 measured rounds, we zoom in even more on Adam Scott, the ball striking gets absurd. He's gaining almost 1.6 shots gained ball striking per round, and the short game has just been about average. And, Adam Scott has historically been a very good short game player, around the green gainer, a good putter on this type of grass, as you can see over here. And when you take a look at his Open Championship record, it's near winner, top 5, top 10, every other time that he plays at the Open. And he does have some dud performances. So if we go to the event history and try and find some of those, a missed cut like a T46, not the greatest, but T10 last year, T15. He's got runner-up finishes, T4s, T5s, especially earlier in his career, showing that he likes the link style golf. I mean, these Australians, they love that style of golf because that's the kind of golf courses that they have in the middle of Australia, and the ones that he grew up playing, and especially early in his career was playing overseas, playing internationally quite a bit at these style of golf courses. So to me, not a surprise that my modeling absolutely loved him. And at a $7,300 price tag, he helps you spend up for a Rory, a John Rahm, a Scotty Scheffler if you want to at the top end of the board. And you're getting a guy that's normally like an 8 or maybe even a 9K range golfer, depending on the type of field that you're in. And then the last thing that we're going to go through here is going to be Patrick Reed at $7,100, who has been playing some of the best golf of his career lately. And, a lot of people probably don't know that because he's playing on the Live Tour, but he's still shown up in some major championships at the same time. And I took him for a top 10 at plus 650. And the last time we played at Royal Portrush, you'll see that he had a top 10 finish. So he finished in exactly 10th, no tie there. The leaderboard was very spread out towards the top end of the board. And you wouldn't historically think of him as playing like an Open Championships that well, but he has. If you take a look at his event history outside of just that 10th place finish, he's got some made cuts. You take a look before those last 5 years, it's even more advantageous for P. Reed. Here's the real reason you want to play Patrick Reed. Ball striking and tee to green in particular has been utterly ridiculous, gaining over 1.5 shots gained tee to green per round. And it's not even just the last 12 rounds that are solid for him. He's getting 0.7 strokes approach per round over his last 24 rounds. And sure, the off the tee play does dip a little bit into the negative, but over the last 12 rounds, he's just found a way to stripe it over the last few live events. He's hitting it like 320 off the tee. He's hitting almost every single fairway as well. And he's hitting those low bullet draws, which this is something that I think really fits this golf course well. It's links land, it's firm and fast. Things tend to roll out a lot more than at other golf courses. That low penetrating draw, if it gets windy out, is going to be the absolute nutted shot for hitting fairways and hitting it a long way. So I love that for Reed. He's got the penetrating ball flight with his irons as well. And I think the harder conditions get, the more I like guys like Patrick Reed, the more I like guys like Matt Fitzpatrick, Robert McIntyre, maybe even a Tommy Fleetwood gets a bit of a boost. Whereas if it's an easier year, it makes me like guys like Viktor Hovland, Adam Scott just a little bit more. So I like that we have a good mix of guys that are good in the wind, guys that are a little bit better when conditions are a little bit more scoreable, because we don't know what the weather is going to hold in store at this point. So I think it's a good idea to get a mix of both sides, and don't overexpose yourself either. We don't have the weather at this point. We don't have all of that kind of stats to lean into. We don't know which side might be getting a half a stroke to a 1 stroke advantage, that sort of thing. Just I would hold off, maybe enter your favorite bets like I have at this point, and then when we get those tee times, we get an idea of that potential weather edge. Fire away on all of your exposure closer to Wednesday. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for this week's DFS and betting preview. Smash that like button if you guys haven't already, and also subscribe to the channel so you guys don't miss any of the content to come. That'll of course include our Wednesday live streams, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the Ship It Nation YouTube, covering all your needs for DFS, and of course our prop and betting live stream will be at 8 p.m. Eastern time on this YouTube channel. So those will be on Wednesday, getting you an idea of exactly the info you need before lock, weather reports, pin locations, stat averages, any of your questions down in the live chat. So make sure to stay tuned for all of that. And of course, for a chance to earn a free month on my Patreon page, give me your winner for this event. And I'm going to open it up to any winner. It'll be even the studs up top. If it ends up being a Rory or Scotty, if you're the first person to guess that player, you will earn that free month of the Patreon. So if you're one of the first people watching this, you have free dibs at literally anyone. Go ahead, take your player before anyone else does. Best of luck over there with all of your exposure, whether it's in your large field GPPs, the giveaway, your bets for this week. I hope you guys crush it all for this major championship. Make sure to check out the Patreon page for all of the extra content that I'm doing, guys. That includes all of my modeling, my projections for every single player that's teeing it up, as well as all my exposure, both from the DFS side of things, like we talk up here, prop betting side of things, an underdog and prize picks. All of that available on the Patreon page. So link down below if you guys want to join up there. It's a very reasonable price tag. Also helps support the channel in the process, and gives you guys every single piece of analysis that I'm doing. But that's all I've got. Best of luck, as I said, and I'll see you guys for that live stream, or the live streams, I should say, on Wednesday.